Ah! You recognize the voice, bitch!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Don't Shoot the Messenger. Today's episode, we're once again going to be discussing just football, no basketball action, no NBA to be discussed in this episode. Let's jump right into it, guys. As always, I'm your host, Lynn, with JR Swish and our good friend Loso as well. Wild Card Weekend is in the boys. Wild Card Weekend is in the books, fellas. Loso and I are very disappointed with the results.
Of course.
The Kansas City Chiefs fell to the Tennessee Titans 22-21 in an upset that yours truly predicted. The Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Buffalo Bills 10-3. The Atlanta Falcons beat the LA Rams 26-13. And the New Orleans Saints beat the Carolina Panthers 31-26. So going into next week's divisional round, the Saints will take on the Minnesota Vikings. The Falcons will take on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Jaguars will take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Titans will take on the New England Patriots. So, guys, initial reactions to these games. Obviously, Jacksonville and Buffalo was a snooze fest.
As predicted by all of us.
Yep.
Yeah, Falcons and Rams, not too exciting. Titans and Chiefs really came down to the wire, as did New Orleans, Carolina. But your initial reactions, Loso, I'll let you go first.
Do you want me to start with Falcons Rams? Where do you want me to go?
You can start with any game you want, yeah.
All right, I'll do it in order, in chronological order. So first off, we all got our game of the weekend completely wrong. We all said it was the Falcons Rams. It was not.
Yeah.
To me, it was the game we all thought would be the biggest snooze fest of them all, which was the Kansas City Chiefs and Tennessee Titans. A hell of a game. A hell of a performance by Derrick Henry, who I think finally earned that starting spot. He for a young guy, he really played his heart out. He played amazing this playoff game.
Right.
And it was just a great effort overall by the Titans. I mean, I don't see them getting any further whatsoever. I don't think they'll score 3 points on the New England Patriots, honestly. But it's a good learning curve. It's a good experience builder for all the young guys, Derrick Henry, Kevin Byard, Marcus Mariota, to finally get that under their belt.
And if I may, just for 1 second, praise Marcus Mariota for throwing a touchdown pass to himself in that comeback effort. What a play.
It's kind of funny. On the Twitter, I saw, I think it was one of the Madden Twitters, they tweeted an over-under for touchdowns for Marcus Mariota, which was 2. And then he threw one and caught one in the same play. So they quoted themselves and said, well, how about that? Catch me outside. How about that? On to the next game, though. The Falcons-Rams. I'm a big Rams fan, so I went out. I had to watch the game. And I think I drank myself into depression watching that game. It was pretty boring. It wasn't fun. Not that I knew we were going to lose, but I wasn't mad with losing. We had an overachieving season. We did our thing. We had a rookie head coach who made a hell of a debut season.
Yeah. It's not like it's a shocking loss either. It's like
it's not. Yeah, the win was expected, but it wasn't a shocking loss.
Yeah,
I was surprised you guys lost. But as you said, great learning experience for this young team that you can say overachieved this year. I think we can agree on that. But really a great year from LA, and I think we should all expect big things from them in the future.
And if you look at the big names, Todd Gurley, over 100 yards on about 10 to 15 carries. Solid game. Jared Goff, he had 250 yards, a touchdown. It's underwhelming, but it's not the worst of playoff debuts. Then you have Aaron Donald, who was wrecking the offensive line the entire game.
Literally.
Troy Hill did not give up a reception all game, which was amazing. I couldn't believe that. So our big names, they did their thing. The thing that really disappointed me was we were the best special teams unit the entire season. we looked like we were the worst special teams unit the entire game.
Yeah, it was
Yeah. Pharaoh Cooper.
special.
Even though I would say one of the fumbles wasn't really his fault.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah. Jeff Fisher went on the record to say that he claimed responsibility for the success. And since he said that, we have not won. So the Jeff Fisher curse does live on. I hate that son of a bitch. Our next game, the Jaguars and the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if I even want to talk about that game. It almost put me to sleep.
Much point discussing.
The only thing I got out of it, these Bills fans, man, they're fucking annoying. You watch videos of them, you got throwing dildos on the field. They find a bunch of butt stuff in the parking lot. What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing?
Throwing each other through tables on fire.
Are they a professional franchise or they a college university? I don't know.
Yeah, messing with a bunch of peaceful Jags fans just out there ready to enjoy their game. It's pathetic.
Yeah, and you know, until your fan base grows up, you as a franchise, you don't deserve a playoff win. I have close family that are Jaguars fans. We're at that game, and I talked to them after the game, and they were saying, you know, it's even crazier to watch these guys in person than it is what you see online. So, I mean,
now on the field, on the field, who knew? Like we knew he could stay up, he could move around, but 90 rushing yards? What the hell?
I believe only the fourth quarterback in NFL history with more rushing yards than passing yards in a playoff game.
And it wasn't that he threw for 20 passing yards like we all expected. It said he ran for 90, which is wild.
Yeah, it's mad wild.
Than he threw, and not because he threw for 20 yards like we all expected.
Right.
But because he was able to run for almost 90 yards, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo's defense just kept playing so soft against him; it was ridiculous.
Well, yeah, there was even that one play where I think it was a screen pass that was covered perfectly, and Bortles still managed to perfectly and precisely at the right time drop, fumble the snap, pick it right up, and get another chunk of yardage.
Yeah,
get that
crazy.
W. It's incredible.
No quarterback spy, no nothing. I don't know what.
That defense, a remarkable defense, remarkable.
Yeah.
And also the end of the game, I saw Nathan Peterman pick up a couple first downs, and I thought there was a little slither of hope, a little bit, just a little chance that he might not be the absolute worst quarterback I've ever seen play football.
And then
in pre-K, high school, college, or professional.
Why he was. Because and proceeded to pick up the first down, fumble the ball out of bounds on the same play.
Yeah.
Very next play, gets intentional grounding, and then the very next play, throws an interception.
Jalen Ramsey.
What a pick by Jalen Ramsey. I want to ask you guys though about the hit that knocked out Tyrod Taylor. Was it a dirty play or?
Yeah.
Not really.
I mean, I see the Jaguars as one of those chippy, if I can get away with it, I'll do it kind of defenses, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're not the Bengals by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
But they'll sneak some stuff in there if they get the chance to, definitely.
Yeah, they got that Seattle edginess to them.
Exactly, yeah. It's more of a Seattle thing. Maybe a little less of the extreme from Seattle, but yeah, kind of like Seattle, yeah.
Yeah.
That edginess, for sure.
And so last game, the Saints-Panthers, it started off really slow. Like Glenn said, I thought it was going to end up being a 30-point win by the Saints. And as the game picked up, it looked like the Panthers were waking up. It only took about 18 weeks, but Christian McCaffrey definitely turned up. He did his job. He looked amazing. He had that great touchdown. Cam Newton with guys who couldn't make the Bills practice squad without here balling.
Mm-hmm.
and it was a great effort. It was unfortunate that they couldn't pull out the win. It's unfortunate that the refs can't really see. A question I've always had is why does the NFL get these refs that are about 97 years old and
bang plays, knowing damn well
half of them and have the vision of a bat?
Right.
Yeah, get some young guys. Get some young guys. The line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I agree completely. Stats, real quick for you guys. Completed 24 of 40 passes, 349 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 37 rushing yards, no turnovers, 105.1 passer rating. Did all this with no-name receivers, and the guy looked like he had a serious concussion at the same time. He was the only reason Carolina was in that game, and I am sure the national media, and I'm talking to you, Colin Coward, you asshole, will find any and all reasons to discredit Cam, to blame him, but this loss is not on him. This entire season, the Panthers have had to ride the shoulders of Cam Newton, and he played his heart out today, and unfortunately it wasn't enough. And
this loss in the season is on the front office, man.
Absolutely, and I hope that going into this offseason, this front office finally decides that enough is enough, and they're actually going to make a concerted effort to go get Cam some help. Because it is pathetic how they are treating a generational talent at quarterback. They have wasted away what could possibly be his prime. And as a fan of not just the Panthers, but of the game, I'm sick of seeing it. JR, we'll move to you now. Your reactions to all 4 games?
Oh, man. Where do I start? Chiefs. Let's start with the Chiefs. How about them Chiefs? Oh, my God. They ain't been the same since they started 5-0, and then they took a nice humbling loss to Pittsburgh. And they proceeded to lose a handful of games after that. One of like 2 or 3 games to finish the season strong. And then they come out, first playoff game, looking good in the first half, go up 21-3, look like they're about to knock the Titans out and just win a playoff game for once. And then they forgot they had to play a second half of football. And
there are 2 halves.
Yeah. Last time I checked, there's 4 quarters of the football game. Chiefs must have left that memo at home or something, because they proceeded to score absolutely 0 points in the entire second half of the football game. And let the Titans come back when the Titans were damn near lifeless. Let the Titans come back and score, 19 straight unanswered points? Yeah.
If I could just interject for 1 second. What I think happened to the Chiefs is they had Jeff Fisher in the locker room at halftime, and he told them that he was partially responsible for the great first half that the Kansas City Chiefs had. That is honestly what I think happened. The only logical explanation.
You're up 21-3. Kareem Hunt only had 11 carries the entire football game. If that's not some Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl shit, 28-3, halfway through the third quarter, don't run the ball. You're just sitting out here tossing screens, dump offs, incomplete pass here, incomplete pass there, another punt.
Yeah, and that's something I'd like to touch on later.
Titans came back and finished the game.
Goal.
That's something I'd like to touch on later, JR, on Kareem hitting the ball as much as he should have. But continue.
I forgot we were on the air, guys. My bad.
You're fine. Go ahead, continue, JR.
Who played the night game? Oh, the Falcons and Rams. That game felt either way. I mean, Rams showed their inexperience, I guess. Well, Farrah Cooper for the most part. I mean, even then, it was still a close game at halftime. It was only like a 3-point game, but they just couldn't overcome. They almost overcame it, but they just I don't know. Farrell Cooper gave them. They spotted the Falcons like 10 points in the first half easily, just off those 2 fumbles. That was a heartbreaker. But I mean, the game could have went either way. It was a pretty even matchup for the most part, and the Falcons just won that game for the most part, straight out. Fair and square. It wasn't like either team choked or one team was like didn't show up. It was just Falcons took advantage of the turnovers, got a couple field goals, and a score, and that was pretty much the outcome of the game.
Right.
And then you go to Sunday, and you got who played the first game? The Bills and the Jaguars. Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally forgot. Oh man, that game was rough.
There's a reason they played at 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah, that's ooh.
I got a good nap in during that
Bills
game.
had their chances, but they're the Bills, and it is what it is. You don't expect nothing much more from them. Jaguars, the defense is solid. I mean, they got lucky a few times here and there throughout the game, but simply because the Bills can't get out of their own way. But that's the Bills. And the Jaguars' offense looked completely inept for most of the game. I mean, Blake Bortles had more rushing yards than he had passing yards for a quarterback. If that don't tell you much, then I don't know what to tell you. Because, oh my God, Blake Bortles. And it wasn't even like he had to make hard passes. He couldn't complete screens and little baby dump offs. It was hard to watch. It was like I think one guy on Twitter I follow said they're quarterbacking in Jacksonville was setting offensive back centuries, and I'd agree. Oh my goodness, that was rough. And then you got the Saints Panthers game. That was it was looking like it was going to be a Saints blowout, but then I don't know if I want to say inexperience of the Saints. I mean, yeah, to an extent. They didn't. Second half, the Panthers shut down the run game totally, completely. The Saints couldn't run the ball at all. So they didn't know. They couldn't finish. And at that point, it was just like, are the Panthers going to get the ball? Are they going to score a touchdown? And then they finally got down the field, scored a touchdown.
God bless you.
I think they got another one right after that. They got the Greg Olsen one to make it within one score. Got another stop. Sean Payton got with the ballsiest move you've seen probably all playoffs to this point. My God, goes for it on 4th and 2 at midfield. There, Drew Brees throws an interception, and Panthers get one last shot. It was questionable. What they call it? Intentional grounding.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. But hey, Panthers had their chances in the first half with a drop touchdown, and the kicker missed a chip shot field goal. I mean, if one of those two happened, then the outcome of that game is probably a little different. But that's the first half. For the first half, I don't know what to tell you. And that was pretty much a wild card weekend. It wasn't.
It wasn't exciting.
Huh?
It wasn't exciting.
No, it wasn't that exciting. The only shocker was the Titans over the Chiefs win.
Yeah.
It was the only shocker.
So I suppose it's my turn now. That's it.
Go for it.
Titans Chiefs. I just want to say, boys, who called the upset? Who called it? I think I did.
I plead the fifth.
Am I right, or am I right here?
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, Titans in upset over the Chiefs. They're definitely not getting past the Patriots. But good learning experience for this young Titans team. The question now becomes, since they're most likely going to keep around this same coaching staff next season, could that loss have actually been a detriment in the long run to the Tennessee Titans?
You don't think Malarkey's fit, huh?
I'd love to see Josh McDaniels take over as head coach of Tennessee, honestly. Pair him up with Mariota and see what he can do. But I guess we will not get that now. But as you said, JR, the Chiefs just completely forgot to play football the second half. Andy Reid coached absolutely horribly. I would say just the second half, but giving Kareem Hunt NFL's leading rusher, 11 carries through that whole game. I mean, you deserve to lose. You were up 21-3 at halftime. You put the ball in his hands, work the clock, play a little bit of defense, and you're going to the next round. And you can't even do that. So you don't – I'm sorry, but you don't deserve to move on to the next round. So kudos to the Titans. I don't know what's next really for Kansas City as far as the whole Alex Smith ordeal. We'll talk about that later. But moving on to the Falcons-Rams game, I was honestly surprised that the Rams looked as flat as they did. Obviously, Pharaoh Cooper pretty much did the Rams in early on. But, again, as I mentioned with the Titans, it's a learning experience for these young guys, and I have a lot of faith in Sean McVay and in this whole team that they're going to be a threat in the NFC for quite some time.
Yeah.
The Falcons showed, they have that playoff experience, and they just wanted it more.
Few things bounced their way, and they won.
Right, and as Loso mentioned, they really did overachieve this year given the circumstances, but I don't want that to serve as a discredit to the talent all over that roster. So I have a lot of faith in the Rams going forward, as I said. But I was surprised at the final score of that game. I really thought that the Rams would be able to pull out a win. Jacksonville, Buffalo. I'm not even going to talk about it for more than a few seconds. Good defense by Jacksonville. Good job by Jalen Ramsey. Bills were trash and shouldn't have been in the playoffs to begin with. Blake Bortles is trash. And they won't get past Pittsburgh. Moving on to the final game of Wild Card Weekend, New Orleans and Carolina. First half, it was rough. New Orleans was in control. Second half, Cam Newton started doing Cam Newton things, leading that team back. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. I think that you can look at a lot of things that happened in this game and say, well, what if this had happened, if this was called differently? But you can say that about pretty much every game that's ever been played. And I never like to play the what if game. It'll drive you crazy. So, yeah, a lot of, as Coach Ron Rivera would like to say, missed opportunities. The drop touchdown by Kalen Clay, the missed field goal by Graham Gano, questionable calls by the refs all game long. But at the end of the day, as much as it pains me to say it as a Panthers fan, the better team won. And Carolina, I think, also overachieved, like the Rams. So hopefully going into this offseason, this front office will get Cam some help. Hopefully this is the game that opened their eyes. So looking ahead to next week, guys, we have the Saints at the Vikings. We have the Falcons at the Eagles. We have the Jaguars at the Steelers. And we have the Titans at the Patriots. JR, I'll let you go first. Early predictions for next week's games, final scores, any outstanding players.
Titans, Patriots. Patriots are favored by 13.5. I think they'll cover that pretty easily. Yeah, Dick LeBeau defense is going to Foxborough. Don't do too well. The only chance the Titans, I can't even say they have a chance. I can't even say that with a straight face. I just no, I don't. Patriots are gonna win by 17. So
7.
Yeah, he had to stretch that out. 17.
I was gonna say 70, but that's a little stretch.
I mean, that's not too far.
I can't think of a score off the top of my head, but the Patriots will win by more than 2 touchdowns, I would say. And you have Saints, Vikings. I like the Vikings in that one at home simply because you saw the way the Panthers played the Saints on defense in earlier today's game, and Panthers stopped the run, and the Saints couldn't finish the game. The Vikings are going to do the same exact thing, but the Vikings also have the secondary in Xavier Rhodes and Harrison Smith who can cover Michael Thomas and down the field. So that makes it even harder for Breeze and makes them more kind of one-dimensional, the Vikings. And Vikings have pass rushers in Everson Griffin and among of others, Anthony Barr. And I think the Vikings will probably win. It's a rematch of Week 1. They beat the Saints as well. Even though it's not different teams, but the teams are just more experienced. But I believe the Vikings will still win. They're at home. They'll have that crowd, the pass rush, make the Saints one-dimensional. I think the Vikings will win that one. Who's the other NFC game? The
Falcons, Eagles.
Falcons, Eagles.
Yeah. This one I'm close with. This one could go either way. Because Eagles with no Wentz, it's a tough one. They're at home though.
The Eagles with no Wentz are like the Cleveland Browns.
Falcons on the road in the cold. Not the biggest fan of that, but I think the Falcons can go in there and win, probably by 7 or less within a touchdown. I think the Falcons will win that game. They have enough defense, enough athletes on defense to win that game. And then Steelers, Jaguars. I think it'll be a tough, pretty gritty game. Might be an ugly game. But I think the Steelers will win by probably like a touchdown. That'd be my predictions for next week.
Loso, your predictions for next week's games?
All right, so let's start with the Titans-Patriots. Patriots 35-10. And that's all I'm going to say on that. I'm done talking about that game. It's going to suck. It's gonna be awful.
Yeah.
It's going to be a malarkey.
Yeah.
Say at least a definition right there. Malarkey. It's going to be awful. It's going to be pain. Moving on to the next AFC game where we have the beloved Steelers. Here we go. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. The Killer Bees. They'll be going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had the Steelers number earlier this year.
Indeed.
We're damn sure they did. It's going to be a gritty game. It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be the game that AB comes back.
Yep.
I'm really excited. You can't see it on my face right now because my camera always freezes. But really excited. This is a tough one. I'm going with the Steelers. I'm going 17-13 Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, that'd be
a low
would go.
Low scoring affair, 17-13 Pittsburgh Steelers. And Le'Veon Bell will have both of the touchdowns for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be an old school game, you know?
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Moving on to the NFC, where I think it'll be a bit more fun to watch. I'll start off with our first NFC matchup is the Falcons-Eagles. An interesting tidbit on that game. The Atlanta Falcons are the first ever team to be favored in a 6-1 matchup. And it is for a damn good reason, because they're, at its current state, they're the better team everywhere. I got the Falcons 31-17.
Wow.
Expect a big performance for Devontae Freeman. 200 plus scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns. Book it. And I know that that's tough against Philadelphia's defense, but he's a good back. It's going to have a big game. And then lastly, the best game of the weekend, next weekend, in my opinion, New Orleans Saints, the Minnesota Vikings. It's going to be one hell of a game. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I hope so, and I really think it will be.
Yeah, I think it will be too.
And I'm going with, I guess you'd call it the upset with the New Orleans Saints. Actually, I've said the Vikings a lot, but I'm going with the Saints. I don't know. It's going to be a hell of a game to watch, and I think the NFL is pushing for the Breeze Brady matchup, and then a double retirement, hopefully, as fans of the NFL. Well, more of a fan of the Rams, not really an NFL fan, but hopefully a double retirement there would be nice for the rest of us who want to see our teams win. And I'm going New Orleans Saints. I'm going 28-27. 28-27 New Orleans Saints.
Well, before I start my predictions, I just want to say, Loso, how dare you steal what I said before the show, that the NFL wants a Brady Breeze.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you.
But looking through these games, Patriots-Titans is probably going to be pretty boring, one-sided matchup. I'm going to say Patriots 31-10. I think that Gronk has a big game, gets 2 touchdowns, over 150 receiving yards. The other AFC game, the Steelers and Jaguars, I think it's going to be a close one, pretty low scoring, but I'm going to say the Steelers take it 20-14. I think ultimately in the end, Blake Bortles is going to do Blake Bortles things and lose the game for Jacksonville. I think that the difference maker for Pittsburgh is going to be Juju Smith-Schuster, the rookie, who has been absolutely incredible this year, not just
LeBron?
on the field. What?
No, I thought that was LeBron.
Oh, yeah. JR's hairline does look pretty bad.
LeBron-esque.
Unfortunately, our fans can't see it right now, but my, oh my, JR, you might want to just throw your whole head away at this point. But kind of getting back on track here, guys. I think the difference maker for Pittsburgh, as I said, the dynamic rookie Juju Smith-Schuster, who, as I said, he's been great not only on the field but on Twitter as well. I really love this guy. Not
on Twitter as well.
I love this kid, not just for how good of a football player he is, but for how much he makes me laugh every time I look at him on Twitter and see the things he's putting out. But yeah, I think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be the difference maker. I think Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell get locked down essentially, and Juju comes out and he has a good game.
What was the score prediction? I'm sorry.
I said I think the Steelers take it 20-14. Looking at the Falcons and Eagles, I go back and forth with it. I know the Eagles don't have Carson Wentz, but they still have an incredible defense and home field advantage. However, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think the stage is going to be too big for Nick Foles. I think he's going to fold under pressure, and I think the Falcons are going to win in a close game. I'm going to say Falcons 21-17. I think Julio gets locked down. I think Tevin Coleman is your difference maker for Atlanta on offense. And I think that Nick Foles basically just loses Philadelphia the game. And then looking at what we all agree is going to be the best game of the week, Saints and Vikings. I think I agree completely with what JR said. It's a completely different defense that New Orleans is facing next week as opposed to the Panthers defense, which completely took Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara out of the game. Drew Brees had his way with that defense, though. It's not going to be the same way against Minnesota. They have an incredible defense all around. Xavier Rhodes, all those guys are going to lock down the Saints' targets. I think it'll be a close game, but I think ultimately the Vikings come out on top. I'm going to take the Vikings 17-14. And I think that your difference maker in that game is going to wind up being Kyle Rudolph, the Vikings tight end. Against the Panthers, the Saints allowed Greg Olsen to do what he does best: run those seam routes, get behind the corners and linebackers, and do his thing. had over 100 receiving yards and obviously the touchdown. And I think Kyle Rudolph is going to do pretty much the same thing. So there you have it. Those are my picks. Looking back at these teams that fell this weekend, Carolina, Buffalo, LA, and Kansas City, all four of them, well, I wouldn't say all four of them, but because LA's future looks pretty bright. But as for Carolina, Buffalo, and Kansas City, the future of these three franchises seems a little bit uncertain right now for various reasons. For Carolina, this was Jerry Richardson's last game as team owner. And as a Panthers fan, I just want to say thank you to Jerry Richardson. I think I speak for all Panthers fans when I say that although we are disappointed with how your time in Carolina came to an end in regards to the allegations against you and the loss, obviously, we still appreciate you bringing football to the Carolinas and giving us the Panthers. So thank you for that.
It's emotional there. Go ahead, you gonna go pull over one of your Smirnoff Ices?
All right, relax. But Carolina definitely faces an uncertain future, not just because of that, but because of some of the older guys on the team. Thomas Davis, Julius Peppers might be looking to retire. As for Buffalo, what are they going to do at quarterback? Are they going to ride with Tyrod Taylor? I mean, if I were him, I wouldn't want to play there after the way I was treated. And if they have to go find a new quarterback, who do they go get? And then, and who knows? Going to be looking for a change in coaching. Well, so I'm going to let you go first here. What do you think about all four of these franchises and the future that all four of them face? What do you think they do next year, off-season, draft-wise? Good news or bad news for these guys?
I think the one that's a little more distinct to the other two that you did mention to me, the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're going to move on from the whole Andy Reid regime, the whole Alex Smith saga. Mm-hmm. I mean, but they have a really good, young, talented quarterback sitting there just waiting to get his shine, Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. So I think as long as they can bring in a good coach and I think they can pull it together, they'll have a pretty good year. I think oddly enough, the future is probably more grim for the team that beat the Tennessee Titans than it is for the Chiefs themselves. Mm-hmm. Like you said, maybe that win was actually detrimental to the team. Right. The Buffalo Bills, I don't know. What are they thinking? Oh no, let's not play Tyrod Taylor. We have such a great option back there with Nathan Peterman, who 5
interceptions, one half of football. Yeah,
he'll definitely be a great replacement. So I think they really just got themselves into a hole that they won't be able to dig themselves out of. Pretty much. I don't know. They're screwed, man. They're in a really tough predicament. Mm-hmm. And the third of the teams, the Carolina Panthers. Man, I don't know. They're changing ownership. That's a little different, you know. Like that's going to shift the whole culture of a team. I'm hoping they can bring in some talent and finally help Cam Newton now, which was something that they've always failed to do. I mean, man, putting together an MVP season with guys like Ted Ginn and Philly Brown, yeah. So that's what I'm hoping they can get some kind of talent going there. Get some good position players, to really help them out. Maybe they're going to need to revamp some of those older positions on the defense, guys like Thomas Davis, Mike Adams. Yeah, they're going to need to do some work. Not too much, though, honestly. Not too much. They have a good, promising halfback there with CMC. He broke out today, which was impressive.
So out of all three of those teams, Loso, because we obviously all know that LA is going to do big things here in the future. So out of all three of these teams, Carolina, Buffalo, and Kansas City, Whose future do you think looks the best right now?
Kansas City.
I agree with you.
They have a young, talented, I don't really like him, but a very talented tight end in Travis Kelce. They have the big play monster in Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
They have an older but still stout defense. And like I said, they have that quarterback waiting to be the complete opposite of Alex Smith.
Right.
So I definitely think they're in the best position. I think the Buffalo Bills are in the worst position, and it's no one's fault but their own.
Yep.
They did a terrible job. They still don't know what they're doing. It's impressive that they were able to make the playoffs, trading away all the pieces that they traded away, though. I got to say that. Getting rid of Marcel Darius, Stephon Gilmore, Ronald Darby.
Everybody.
Yeah. Sammy Watkins. I mean.
Yeah. Robert Woods.
Yeah, exactly. And for a rookie head coach, Sean McDermott, to do what he did.
It's not the coaching. It's that. I'll tell you that. It's not the coaching.
Yeah.
No.
That's again a front office issue.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, JR, your thoughts on the future of these teams?
The 3 teams, not including the Rams.
If you want to include them, if you think their future's at any risk.
Yeah, but I mean, personally, I just don't see any sort of future where LA doesn't run the NFC West for a few years at least. So that's why I kind of want to talk about Carolina, Buffalo, and Kansas City because, like I said, all 3 of these teams facing a lot of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think?
I'd probably say the Chiefs probably have, they probably do. But they're in the AFC West, so then again, if Denver
The
gets
AFC West
quarterback,
was highly disappointing this year. If I can add that.
yeah, the AFC West was a huge letdown this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was awful.
Raiders went back to shit. Broncos, they can't carry it. They carried for that one season to get that Super Bowl, but you can't do that year in and year out with no quarterback. That's a joke. But if they pull Kirk Cousins, Denver's gonna be right back there competing.
You think so? You think that's all they are away from being a contender?
Yeah, I mean they have receivers. They might draft a tight end or 2, or they could draft a running back, whichever they want, whichever they seem fit better.
Denver still needs a line. Let's just be honest.
They already drafted one offensive lineman, Garrett Bowles. He's going to be the beast. He was a rookie this year. He was their first-round pick.
That's fine. That's fine, but you still need 4 more guys.
Their offensive line isn't that terrible. I mean, it is for pocket passing quarterback maybe, but they can get.
Well, then you have to look at the guys that you're essentially going after. I mean, Alex Smith, Kirk Cousins. If you're going to go look to draft a quarterback, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, dare I say Baker Mayfield.
They're not getting any of those quarterbacks drafted class. They're not going to draft one, though. They'll draft one.
I know you hear this year after year, but honestly, and it's every year I think you hear this, this draft class is not that good. This quarterback draft class, I'm sorry. I don't think this quarterback class is that. And I know you hear it every year. You've heard it with Wentz and with Goff and with every guy. I just don't see the talent in this year's draft.
Really,
talented.
We're hearing the opposite. I mean, that we've been hearing the opposite, that this draft class overall is loaded. And
at quarterback, I don't think so.
It has talent at quarterback.
I'm saying that the national conversation about it is that these quarterbacks, or the quarterback class is loaded between Rosen, Allen, Mayfield, all these guys.
I think Allen's a bum. I don't know where they're getting that information from.
Yeah, Josh Rosen both, I don't think that they're going to live up to any of these expectations that are being thrown on them. But that's a topic in and of itself.
But I think it's talented at quarterback. But the Broncos are going to get a Kirk Cousins or maybe not an Alex Smith, but maybe a Tyrod, or they'll get a quarterback in free agency.
Right. And speaking,
they have the Panthers and the
Bills.
The Bills, yeah, I don't know. Bills just traded away pretty much all their talent for absolutely nothing. That's not on the coaching at all. I mean, the coach still used a little bit of talent he had left and still got him to the playoffs, snuck him into the playoffs, which is impressive in its own right. But yeah, Bills just need to keep their own talent that they actually draft and continue to do that. you don't need to trade your only talent you had away and make Tyrod look like shit because you traded away his.
You don't like him pretty much.
Yeah, or you don't like him, yeah, for whatever reason. You don't just put that on Shady and Tyrod. That's not cool. So he'll probably be gone at the end of the season anyway. So the Bills will be looking for a quarterback, offense outside of Shady, and more defense for the most part. And Panthers just need speed. They have 17 tight ends. It's ridiculous. They got tight end at quarterback, tight end at running back. They got a tight end at tight end. They got tight end playing receiver. It's madness.
They got it right in one of them.
Nobody on that offense outside of McCaffrey runs a faster than a 4.5. It's kind of aids to watch at times. Devin Funchess is cool, but he's like a number 2 on a real good team. He's like a solid number 2. He's not a number 1. I mean, he was a tight end for the majority of his college career. Came to the NFL, lost a little weight. Now he's somewhat of a receiver. Greg Olson's not getting any younger. And then outside of that, McCaffrey's cool. They haven't figured out how to totally use him completely yet. It's taken an entire season. I don't understand why. Outside of that, they had practice squad receivers out there running around. I didn't even know who the hell number 12 was until he dropped a touchdown. I was like, all right, some kid named Sale or whatever the hell his last name was. I don't even remember. That's
you mean Clay?
Who? What's his last name?
Clay. Kalen Clay is his name.
Clay.
Exactly. Exactly.
Practice
It's
squad
not
receivers,
bad.
like I said.
Yeah, it's that
My
bad.
God.
So, but would you agree with Loso that out of all those teams, Kansas City probably has the brightest future?
Possibly, yeah, because they got the young talent for the most part on both sides of the ball. They have Justin Houston on one side and Eric Berry's still there, even though he'll be back next year. Marcus Peters is a playmaker. They'll probably just draft a linebacker or so. Offense, they'll go forward with Pat Mahomes. They have Kareem Hunt. They may draft a receiver or so. They got Travis Kelce and Hill. But yeah, I'd probably say the Chiefs. Even though it's the same damn Chiefs every year, I don't expect nothing more.
With a new quarterback and possibly a new head coach.
Yeah, it's still Chiefs. It's just something about Chiefs. All right, they won
there's
playoff game.
There's something about the Browns, about the Chiefs, or about the Browns. There's something. That's a team where there's something.
No. It's the Chiefs. The Chiefs it's something about the Chiefs. They won one playoff game in their last 12. Like, it's something about the Chiefs. Alex Smith ain't been there for all 12 of them. It's just something about the Chiefs.
They might as well have been.
He might as well have been too. But I mean, my God, the Chiefs must deal with the devil or something. I don't know what to tell you. Because they can't prosper come playoff time for nothing. They lost, 6 straight home playoff games? That is some bullshit. My God. At home. Like, Kansas City, playing in Kansas City is like difficult. One of the 5 hardest places to play in the regular season. And then you go play them there in the playoffs and you win because they just implode. I don't know. It's like a good self-implode, though. It doesn't make any sense, but I mean, it's not like they're the Bengals and they're fucking getting personal fouls and killing everybody in the middle of the game. Because the Chiefs, they just
it's a peaceful one.
Yeah, it's not like
it's a peaceful implosion.
Yeah, it's a real. It's like, oh damn, you feel sorry for them afterwards. That's what I'm trying to say. Bengals, nah, they did it to themselves. They're retarded. That's
I agree with you guys. I think out of all 3 of those teams, Kansas City probably has the brightest future. Looking to move on from Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes looks ready to take the reins, and who knows if Andy Reid will still be there next year. I have a feeling he'll still be there despite the loss. But they have a lot of young talent: Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce on offense with Mahomes. On defense, you've got Justin Houston, Marcus Peters, Eric Berry. So really, you just need a couple more pieces to plug in here and there. And, I mean, you can control the AFC West depending on what these other 3 teams do. I mean, the Chargers were almost there in the playoffs. The Broncos are still a quarterback and a couple other pieces away. I mean, you can say they need just a quarterback, but I don't think just throwing Kirk Cousins in there is going to turn the Broncos into a Super Bowl contender by any stretch.
That's what we did 2 years ago. Shit.
Well, but
only 2 years removed from Super Bowl champion.
Well, yeah, but you have a lot of players on that roster that have aged a good bit. I mean, Chris Harris, not Chris Harris, Aqib Talib, all those guys.
Their key vendors are young. They moved on from T.J. Ward, who was probably the oldest one. The rest of them are young. They're all in the mid-20s. That's why I'm like, they just gotta find that hunger again, like Seattle did. Go back to Seattle went back to back, but Seattle now is getting older. Seattle now is older than Denver. That's why Denver's younger defense.
Yeah. And then obviously, the Raiders are trash, and we're not even going to discuss the Raiders. But looking at Buffalo, as you said, Loso, they did all this to themselves, trading away all their talent. And I know you guys talked about the coaching, but I just want to mention the fact that Sean McDermott has a lot of control over that roster, and a lot of those moves were his decision. So he worked with what he had, but again, it's self-inflicted wounds. It's things you brought on yourself. Now, obviously, Tre'Davious White is incredible. Talking about these rookie corners, I think he's somebody whose name a lot of people forget, but he played out of his mind. The emergence of both Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, I don't know how you say his last name, at safety. So the Bills have some young talent on the defensive side of the ball, but on offense, I mean, there's a lot of question marks. Quarterback being the biggest one. Who knows what's going to happen? Shady McCoy isn't getting any younger. I mean, your number one receiver right now is Kelvin Benjamin, and having watched him as a Panthers fan, I can tell you that that's a pretty horrifying thought for him to be your number one wide receiver. So I don't really know what Buffalo is going to be doing moving forward. For Carolina, as you mentioned, Loso, could be an entire culture change with new ownership. Or JR, you might have said that. We've been on this topic for a hot minute now. So, but anyway, there's a lot of players that we might not see in a Panthers uniform next year. Jonathan Stewart, Ryan Cleal, the center, Julius Peppers and Thomas Davis might retire. Mike Adams needs to retire. They might choose to move on for good from Charles Johnson. So, there's a lot of question marks for Carolina at multiple positions, the biggest ones being at receiver and in the secondary. But we also can't forget about the fact that they still need a left tackle because Matt Cleal is clearly not the answer there. I mean, you've got a solid line aside from that. You've got Andrew Norwell, who was the best. You've got Andrew Norwell, who is the best guard in the NFL this year. You've got Trey Turner, another monster at the other guard position. You have Darrell Williams at right tackle, who was, very underrated. One of the best right tackles in the league this year. And Tyler Larson, when he was in there for the injured Ryan Khalil for most of the year, he played pretty well. But left tackle is the anchor of that line, and unfortunately, it's a gaping issue for Carolina. Edge rusher, you're not getting any younger, as I mentioned. Julius Peppers and Charles Johnson might be gone. Mario Addison is good, but he's 30 now. Outside linebacker Thomas Davis might choose to retire, and then the secondary as a whole is garbage. I mean, the safeties are old and slow. Your corners are young and don't know how to play zone or man. So a lot of question marks for Carolina, but I think out of all those teams, Kansas City has no question the brightest future. moving on to our next topic, guys. We talked about it briefly. There's a lot of talk that Alex Smith is going to be traded. JR, I'm going to let you go first. If Alex Smith is no longer in a Chiefs uniform, where are we going to see him next year?
Alex Smith, yeah, I think he's done. So he's owed what, $20 million next year, and you got young Mahomes sitting there waiting. I think it's Mahomes season, Mahomes time. I don't know where Alex Smith's getting traded to.
That's Mahomes.
He could definitely, he could just retire. I mean, he's not gonna do that, I don't think. But I mean, he could go to the Giants. He could go to Jaguars. There's a handful of teams who need a quarterback.
The Jets.
The Jets. I don't know if he can handle New York City. He can't handle a 5-man rush, let alone New York City media.
We're not that bad.
Huh?
I said we're not that bad.
You seen Alex Smith under 5-man rush, let alone thousands of New York media? Oh man. Woo. Don't let the New York Post get a hold of Alex Smith. I don't know. The Jets or the Giants. I don't know if he wants to go there. The Jaguars. I don't think he's going to stay in the AFC West and go to Denver. That wouldn't be the worst, but I don't think they know him too well. I don't think the entire AFC West knows him too well, so I don't think he would go anywhere in there. I mean, it makes sense for him, but I don't think it would make sense for Denver because every other team knows how to play Alex Smith for the most part in that division. So, and nobody else in that division needs a quarterback. And then there's a few other teams I like. And not even Alex Smith. What are the Vikings going to do next year at quarterback? Is a real question. They got 3 quarterbacks. Case Keenum needs to be paid. Sam Bradford's probably getting traded as well. And Teddy Bridgewater may be kept as a backup. Outside, I mean, what do you do if you're the Vikings? That's the even bigger question. I mean, not yeah.
Yeah, that's a really tough. It's a unique quarterback situation out there.
That's really tough. Because you got 3 quarterbacks. You could probably win a few playoff games with 2 of them. Teddy Bridgewater, I'm not so sure. Bradford, yeah, you can make a sneak one or 2. Case Keenum, same thing. But I don't know what they would do going into next season. So maybe
I think the question
Alex Smith maybe is a step above all 3 of them. So maybe he could go there. I don't know.
Talking about
maybe Washington if Kirk Cousins leaves and goes to Denver, or
maybe
it's gonna be a busy offseason for quarterbacks in general. And then you have the draft on top of that, which should just be the icing on the cake. It's gonna be hectic quarterbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. And just talking about the Vikings for a second, I just want to ask one question. I think that question is, who do you think you can get the most trade value for between Keenum, Bradford, and Bridgewater? Personally, I think, you think Bradford over Bridgewater?
Yeah, nobody ain't giving up much of anything for Bridgewater.
I don't think any of them are giving up much for anything.
Yeah, not any of them are going to be. I mean, Sam Bradford can get a little bit, but I mean, other than that,
you're not making up what you gave away for him.
But yeah, you're not getting a king's ransom for any of them. So
the way the Eagles, I don't know how the Eagles got a first-round pick for him, honestly.
But that's King.
But Les, I'll let you go before I do. In regards to the Alex Smith potential trade?
There's a lot of landing spots for him, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, the Bills. I mean, hell, the Bills could take him. They I don't know. There's too many options for a guy too many options for a team who needs he's not a get you over the, he's a bridge quarterback. He's just there to fill in for 2 or 3 seasons and whatnot. Like, there's a handful of teams that would take that. So
Alex Smith?
I think
hell yeah. You know how many quarterbacks the Browns? The Browns will offer Alex Smith $100 million a season to be their quarterback for the next 2 years.
This is my question, guys. Where do all quarterbacks go to die? And no, not Cleveland, the other place.
Where's the other place?
The New York Jets. J-E-T.
To the pit of misery.
Sock.
Jets to the pit of
The
misery.
New York Jets.
Goodness.
Their quarterback will be the Alex Smith.
Handful of teams gonna line up.
Alex Smith. He's going to be there. Take my word. He's going to be on the Jets. The Jets are going to be excited for a bit. Fireman Eddie's going to come back. And then 2 weeks later, Fireman Ed is gone. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, and it's going to suck. It's going to suck so much.
Hilarious. And they're all going to pay top dollar for him, too. That's the funniest
part. Yeah. Oh, no matter who's going for him, you're paying. You're paying for not much, but you're paying.
Well, that's the thing. For Alex Smith, you're not just paying top dollar, but you're making that trade. And
the only person that'll benefit off that is Robbie Anderson. I think he'd be a big play machine with Alex Smith. Much of a not to the extent, but similar to Tyreek Hill and the way he makes big plays for the Chiefs at the moment.
I think Alex Smith ends up in a place that we haven't mentioned. I think he ends up in the Cardinals. Carson Palmer has retired, and there's a lot of
just another destination. I mean, it's endless possibilities.
There's a lot of uncertainty there.
What do you mean, Drew Stanton?
And Drew Stanton is a great sideline dancer. I mean, he's a great cheerleader. Not so much quarterback.
Bold trade prediction for the offseason. Steelers trade Landry Jones to the Cardinals. Landry Jones and a 3rd-round pick to the Cardinals for Tyrann Mathieu.
No, all right.
We're not.
Can we cut this guy's mic? Can we cut him off? Because they're going to do that. How do we mute you?
Mute button, unfortunately, but
All right, Landry Jones and Martavis. There we go. And
all right, stop. I do think that Alex Smith is going to
Matthew. Come on, kid.
I think Alex Smith is going to end up in Arizona for a reason that you guys are completely overlooking. Alex Smith has only played for teams whose main color is the color red. I mean, San Francisco red,
Pyro
City red, Arizona red.
I didn't know Alex Smith was Pyro, bro.
Even in college, he went to Utah. They're red.
But in all seriousness, guys, as you mentioned, there's a lot of potential destinations, but I think Alex Smith ends up in Arizona. And as you said, JR, there is going to be a lot of quarterbacks moving around this season. It's going to be a busy offseason.
Any chance Drew Stanton battles him for that quarterback spot?
No.
Is there a way to mute you?
I can mute myself if like.
You can. All right, so guys, one topic that I want to talk about for not too long, but the Jaguars just beat the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. One of their impressive defensive linemen, now forgive me if I completely butcher his name, Yannick Ngakoue. Ngakoue. Thank you, Loso.
Yannick, he's a beast.
Tweeted after the game.
Shout out Yannick.
Quote, great win today, and 64, you going to have to come harder than some weak racist slurs. I'm proud of my African heritage, as are 70% of the other black players in this league. I ain't Jonathan Martin. So Richie Incognito, a player that has long been the subject of controversy for certain racial slurs. Obviously, there was the huge deal with Jonathan Martin a couple years ago, and now Yannick accusing him of throwing racial slurs his way. I mean, what do you guys think in regards to Richie Incognito? I'd like to address this first.
You should go Incognito.
I'd like to address this first.
I mean, he's in Buffalo. They'll just reward him with $100 million.
I think Incognito is a complete bum, not just as a football player, but as a human being. He's shown his true colors before, and the fact that he's still in the National Football League is a disgrace, I believe. I can't stand the guy. He's a bully, and for somebody like that chooses to, engage in that kind of language. There's no place for someone like that in today's society, I believe. I don't like to play the role of social justice warrior. I think that's a complete joke, but I'm also not going to stand here and tolerate any sort of racism. But what do you guys think, Loso? I'll let you go first.
Like I said, he should go incognito. I don't know why there's repeat cases of this. You know what I really don't get is how he gets away with this. If you're going to be racist, and you're on a field with, out of 22 men, probably 14, 13 African American of them, if we're being realistic here, because we know the sport is dominated by African American. How is he consistently getting away with this? How does it happen? What's letting this happen?
I don't know, because if I was on the field in earshot, regardless of whether or not I was his teammate, I'd lay him out for making it like that.
It's ridiculous. You're being competitive up to a certain point. Once you get into that, it's nonsense. It's bullshit.
You can sit here and call me trash. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're throwing racial slurs, you've already lost. And it shows how disgusting of a human being you really are.
It's pathetic, man. It's really pathetic. In what way does it benefit you, you know?
It doesn't. It doesn't, exactly. And I think there's no place for that in today's society.
And that's why his offensive line mustered up his offense 3 whole points today. Because he's too worried about being racist that he couldn't do his damn job. Garbage.
JR, your thoughts on Richie Incognito and once again being the topic of making racial slurs?
That's nothing new. It's Richie Incognito. He went to Buffalo because that's what they do up there in Buffalo. Up there, and this is what they do. They're trying to push Ty God out the door so they can get a quarterback who, like Incognito, who would make just as many racial slurs.
Because of the fair skin, as they might say.
So they can go destroy, like they were all them damn Trump supporters they had down there in Jacksonville, jumping through tables and jumping off school buses. My God, get these people on a leash. This is ridiculous. Bill's Mafia needs to be stopped. They ain't nothing but them damn, what were those fucking Klansmen down in South Carolina? But in Buffalo Bills jerseys. All this is a cover up.
It's some heavy allegations.
Yeah. So
you heard it here first. Oh my God.
So we just that's something I wanted to address, guys. Was Richie Incognito, and that just it's disgusting and uncalled for, and it just pisses me off. So we're almost out of time for this episode. Final topic before we sign off: national championship predictions. We got Alabama and we got Georgia. JR, who's winning the national championship?
Roll Tide. That's all I gotta say. Roll Tide. Don't ask me why. Just roll Tide. Just know. Roll Tide. I wouldn't be shocked if Georgia pulled it out, but Georgia don't. We saw Georgia play against Oklahoma. Neither one of them played defense. Okay, the final score was 54, 49, 55. It was ridiculous.
I think it was 51-49. I don't even remember.
It was 100 and some points. I just know it was too damn many. And Alabama not allowing any of that to happen.
Too many for you to count.
They'll play enough defense. They're going to load the box and force that young quarterback on Georgia to throw the ball. He ain't going to be able to do it that well consistently throughout the entire game. And I say Alabama wins by like 10. Solid 10.
Okay. Loso, final score prediction.
Fuck the Roll Tide.
America wants Georgia to win, but Alabama just
I think Alabama takes it. I'd love to see them lose, but I think Alabama is going to win it with that.
You're sleeping on my dogs, man. You're sleeping on my Bulldogs.
I would like to see Georgia win, but I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they did. That'd be cool. They win it in year one of under.
And they will. They're going to win it. 27-24.
It's not a bad score. It's not a bad score, but I say Bama wins.
27. Nick Chubb, 2 touchdowns.
All All right, fellas. We are out of time for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to this episode of Don't
Check out
Shoot
that
the
Dave Chappelle. Check out that Dave Chappelle.
Oh, and if you haven't seen the latest Dave Chappelle Netflix special, you need to go watch it because it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. There's also some super real stuff he talks about. So definitely go treat yourself and check it out. But again, thank you guys for tuning in and listening. For JR Swish and for Loso, this is Glenn. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of Don't Shoot the Messenger.
And we out.
And we will see you next time.